They're not asking for help, they're demanding emotional labour, and you're too polite to tell them to fuck off and figure it out themselves. Help. We've romanticised it, made it sacred, made it the hallmark of being a good person. Good people help. Good people are there. Good people drop everything when someone needs them. And you've taken that to heart, haven't you? You're the helper, the fixer, the shoulder to cry on, the one everyone calls when they need something, and you wear it like a badge of honour. Look how helpful I am. Look how caring. Look how available. Except you're not helpful, and you're being exploited, and you're calling it kindness because admitting you're being used is uncomfortable. But let's be clear about what's actually happening. They're not asking for help. Help is temporary. Help is specific. Help is I need a ride to the airport, or can you watch my dog this weekend, or I'm struggling with this problem and I need your perspective. That's help. That's reciprocal. That's bounded. That has an endpoint. What they're asking for isn't help. It's emotional labour. It's therapy without paying for therapy. It's unpaid counselling. It's free processing. It's using you as a dumping ground for their unresolved trauma, whilst giving nothing back. And you let them every single time. Because you think saying no makes you selfish. You think boundaries make you cruel. You think refusing to absorb someone else's emotional chaos makes you a bad person. So you say yes, and you listen, and you counsel, and you fix, and you give and give and give until you're completely drained. And then they disappear, until they need you again, and the cycle repeats. That's not friendship, that's extraction. And you're the resource being mined. One philosopher said some people are like social invalids, always taking, never giving. He was being kind. Most people demanding your emotional labour aren't invalids. They're just lazy. They could do the work themselves. They could pay a professional. They could learn to regulate their own emotions. But why would they? When you're free, when you're available, when you've trained them that you'll drop everything to manage their feelings for them. And that's what emotional labour is. Managing someone else's feelings, absorbing their anxiety so they don't have to feel it, processing their trauma so they don't have to do the work, holding space, as they say, which is just therapy speak for be my unpaid therapist and don't complain about it. You're not helping them, you're enabling them, you're teaching them that they don't have to deal with their own problems because you'll do it for them, and you think that makes you kind. It doesn't. It makes you a doormat with a saviour complex. Here's the test. When was the last time they asked how you are? Not as a formality before launching into their crisis. Actually asked. Actually cared. Actually listened to the answer. Can't remember. That's because they don't care. They're not your friend. They're your client. Except clients pay. These people just take. And you let them because you've mistaken being needed for being valued. You think if you're indispensable, if you're the one they call, if you're always there, that means you matter. That means you're important. That means they care about you. They don't. They care about what you provide. And the moment you stop providing it, the moment you set a boundary, the moment you say, I can't talk right now, they'll disappear. Or worse, they'll get angry. How dare you not be available? How dare you prioritise yourself? How dare you stop being their emotional support animal? What? And you'll feel guilty. You'll wonder if you overreacted, if you were too harsh, if you should have just helped, if that's what friends do. But friends don't demand. Friends ask. And friends accept no as an answer. These people aren't friends. They're emotional vampires, and you're bleeding yourself dry to keep them fed. Another wise bloke said, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. But you don't have that distance. You've collapsed yourself into their needs, absorbed their problems, made their crisis your crisis, and now you can't tell where you end and their dysfunction begins. That's not love. That's codependence, and codependence isn't a virtue. It's a pathology. So let's talk about what emotional labour actually looks like. It's the friend who calls in crisis, again, for the 14th time this month, with the same problem, that they refuse to actually solve, because solving it would require effort, and calling you requires none. It's the family member who dumps their anxiety on you and then gets annoyed when you don't have a solution, as if you're responsible for fixing what they won't acknowledge is broken. It's the colleague who treats you like their personal therapist, who corners you in the break room to vent about their life, whilst you stand there nodding and absorbing their stress like a sponge. It's the partner who expects you to manage their emotions because they never learned how, who gets upset and waits for you to calm them down, who creates chaos and expects you to clean it up every single time. And you do it, because you think that's what caring looks like. But caring isn't letting people use you. Caring is having boundaries. Caring is teaching people they're responsible for their own emotional regulation. Caring is saying no when yes would destroy you. But you don't say no, you say yes, and then you resent them, but you don't blame them. You blame yourself for not being strong enough to handle it, for not being patient enough, for not being kind enough. Bollocks. You're plenty kind. Too kind. So kind you've forgotten you're allowed to protect yourself from people who drain you. Here's what they're doing. They're outsourcing their emotional processing to you. They're dumping their unregulated nervous system on your regulated one and expecting you to fix it. They're treating you like an emotional landfill, and landfills get paid for taking rubbish. You're doing it for free. And the worst part, they're not even grateful. They don't thank you. They don't reciprocate. They don't check in on you. They just take what they need and disappear until the next crisis. Because to them, you're not a person. You're a function. You're the person who fixes things, who listens, who cares, who's always there. And you've accepted that role. You've made it your identity. You're the helper, the strong one, the one people turn to, and you think that makes you valuable. It makes you exhausted, and it makes them entitled. Because here's what happens when you're always available. People stop appreciating it. They start expecting it. Your availability becomes their right. Your emotional labor becomes their due. And the moment you can't provide it, they don't think, oh, she must be struggling. They think, how dare she not be there for me? That's not friendship. That's exploitation with a smile. So what do? You stop. You stop answering every call. You stop dropping everything. You stop managing everyone else's emotions whilst ignoring your own. You stop being available for people who are never available for you. And you watch what happens. Some of them will be confused. They'll ask what's wrong. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being selfish or cold or not caring anymore. Let them. Because what they're really saying is, you're not convenient anymore. You're not providing free labor anymore. You're not letting us use you anymore. And that makes us uncomfortable. Good. Be uncomfortable. Figure out your own problems. Pay for a therapist. Learn to regulate your own emotions. Stop demanding that other people fix what you refuse to address. And some of them will disappear entirely, won't even try to maintain the relationship once you stop being useful. And that tells you everything. They were never there for you. They were there for what you provided. And now that the well is dry, they're gone. Good riddance. You don't need people whose friendship is conditional on your availability. You need people who care about you, not just what you can do for them. But here's the bit you're avoiding. You're addicted to being needed. You're addicted to the feeling of being indispensable. You're addicted to the momentary high of fixing someone's problem and being thanked for it. Even if that thanks is shallow, even if it doesn't come with reciprocity. You're addicted to being the helper because being the helper means you don't have to look at your own problems. You can focus on theirs. You can feel useful for fixing them. You can avoid the work you need to do on yourself. And that's why you keep doing it. Not because you're kind, but because you're avoiding. Avoiding your own pain by absorbing everyone else's. Avoiding your own life by managing theirs. Avoiding your own problems by fixing theirs. And calling it helping. Calling it caring. Calling it being a good person. But good people have boundaries. Good people know when to say no. Good people understand that you can't pour from an empty cup, which is a cliche you've probably said to other people whilst ignoring it entirely yourself. So here's the uncomfortable truth. They're not asking for help because they're helpless. They're demanding emotional labour because you've taught them you'll provide it, and they'll keep demanding it until you stop giving it. Which means the responsibility is yours, not theirs, yours. You have to set the boundary. You have to say no. You have to protect your own energy, because they won't do it for you. They'll take everything you give and ask for more. That's what people do when you've trained them. You're an unlimited resource. But you're not unlimited. You're finite. You're human. You have your own problems, your own pain, your own life that needs attention. And you can't give that attention when you're bleeding yourself dry for people who wouldn't do the same for you. So stop. Stop answering every call. Stop being available at all hours. Stop treating their crisis like it's your emergency. Stop managing their emotions. Stop absorbing their anxiety. Stop giving them what they should be giving themselves. And when they get upset, when they accuse you of not caring, when they say you've changed, don't apologize. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just say, I'm not available for that right now, and let them sit with it. Let them sit with the discomfort of having to deal with their own problems. Let them sit with the realization that you're not their emotional support human. Let them sit with the fact that friendship is reciprocal, and if they can't offer support, they don't get to demand it. Bam. Some of them will learn, will realize they've been taking advantage, will start showing up differently, will start reciprocating. Most won't. Most will just find someone else to use, another empath, another helper, another person who hasn't learned that kindness without boundaries is just self-destruction with better PR. And you'll feel guilty at first. You'll wonder if you were too harsh, too cold, too selfish. You'll question whether you overreacted, whether you should have just helped one more time. You shouldn't have, because one more time turns into 1,000 more times, and 1,000 more times turns into a lifetime of being drained by people who don't care about you. One philosopher said that the person who won't say no becomes the slave of everyone. He was right. You're not helpful, you're enslaved, and you're calling it friendship. But friendship is mutual. Friendship is reciprocal. Friendship is give and take, not just take, whilst you give. So stop giving, see who stays, and whoever's left, those are your people. The ones who value you, not just what you provide. The ones who show up for you, not just when they need something. The ones who care about your well-being, not just their own. And if no one's left, then you were alone the whole time. You just didn't know it because you were too busy being everyone's therapist to notice they weren't being yours. They're not asking for help, they're demanding emotional labour, and you're not required to provide it. You never were. So here's the question. Who in your life takes more than they give? Name them in the comments, or don't. Your silence is also an answer. Overthinking Department, where we call extraction and extraction, open 24/7.